Another round of peace negotiations expected between top U.S. and Russian officials in Miami this weekend after the EU just approved an eye-popping $105 billion funding deal for Ukraine. Joining me now to break this meeting down is U.S. Ambassador to NATO, Matt Whitaker. Ambassador, great to have you as always. Will these talks be any different than the talks we've been covering for the better part of 3 years now? Will these talks be the one that finally end this war?
Todd, good to be with you. And I think we are sort of as close as we've ever been. Obviously, the delicate nature now and the nuances that are involved, it's going to require everybody to roll up their sleeves. But I think if there's a chance for peace, certainly we are going to push forward for that. And I think this is our chance. I think right now is the moment, based on everything that I'm being told about the situation, is it is really down to some final delicate negotiations. Steve and Jared are doing a fantastic job seeing if there is a way to put this together. Obviously, none of this would have happened but for the fact that President Trump was elected and has been pushing for peace deals because he's the peacemaker in chief. And so we're going to keep seeing where this goes. We're doing everything we can here at NATO and at my mission to make sure that the stage is set, for peace and to end the killing.
That is certainly a goal, and I am certainly optimistic that what happens this weekend will hopefully lead to an end. The problem, Ambassador, is that one of the parties that needs to sign on to this agreement does not sound as optimistic. Of course, we're talking about President Zelensky of Ukraine. He says Russia is preparing for another year of war. Quote, "It is important that partners see this, in particular partners in the United States of America, who often say that Russia supposedly wants to end the war." But entirely different rhetoric and different signals are coming from Russia. So, Ambassador, do you think Russia actually wants to end the war in 2026?
Yeah, well, this weekend, I think we're going to find out. I think this is a deal has been hashed out between the Ukrainians, the United States, and European allies. And we're going to now see what comes back when those meetings happen in Miami. But ultimately, this is our chance. And, Ukraine should also be prepared to fight into 2026. And it's the reason that the $105 billion loan at the EU was approved, is to fund that. The United States is selling weapons to our NATO allies, and those are being provided to Ukraine. They're weapons that can't be sourced anywhere else. But, we want this war to end. But we also want Ukraine to be able to defend itself. And it's going to be pretty obvious as we head into this winter without a peace deal that the fighting will continue. But, President Trump and his team, including myself, we're not going to give up on peace. We just can't give up on peace. And if there is any chance that we can negotiate a deal, we're going to make sure we do it.
$105 billion seems like a tremendously large number. It is for aid in 2026 and 2027, and it will fund Ukraine's defense against Russia for the next 2 years. But despite the eye-popping nature of that number, Ambassador, is that enough help from Europe? Or should more come from them and less from us?
Yeah. Well, right now, the United States, under President Trump, has stopped providing direct aid for the war effort. We're selling weapons, and that's the prioritized Ukraine requirements list that President Trump asked me to be involved in this last summer, and we've been very successful in making that happen. Right now, it costs about $20 to $30 billion to prosecute the war, plus another $30 billion from the Ukrainians. And so, every year just to fight, it costs probably $60 to $70 billion. I mean, it's very expensive. This is why peace is a better option for all sides. Russia is spending probably twice that to continue to prosecute this war. Right. It is a complete waste. It is senseless what's happening, Todd. And that's why President Trump is adamant that this killing needs to stop and we need a peace deal. And we're pressing. He's pressing and his team's pressing.
All eyes on Florida this weekend to see what comes out of that important peace meeting between Russia and the United States. U.S. Ambassador to NATO, Matt Whitaker, thank you, sir. As always, a pleasure.